Hi, my name is Rebecca Gabrielle. I wanted to just help you to get to know me. You probably don't know me. I live in Sydney, Australia, and last year I published a book. It was the first book I've ever written, and it came at a time that it was a very difficult time for me. I was going through a very big life change, and it was my way of being able to articulate all of the things that I was going through in my life, things that I had learned, made sense of, and hadn't made sense of. I'd always known that one day in my life I would write a book. I'd been writing ever since I was a little girl, and I remember my mother always saying to me, one day you're going to be a writer, and I never really thought anything of it. I was just doing what I love to do, as kids do. They don't filter what they do, they just enjoy what they love. And I used to write a lot of little poems and letters to myself, and eventually that became journals, of which I seem to have a million of. When I was 16, I had a very spiritual experience, and it was sort of an awakening for me to recognise that I had a purpose in my life. The spiritual experience put me in touch with the divine, which I had no idea what that meant at the time. But I did have this realisation that about midway through my life, and back then I thought midlife was 35, clearly not, but I was aware that I was going to have a very substantial experience that would change everything in my life, and so would begin my purpose. And then I didn't think anything of it, although it was very profound, and for many years I kept the experience to myself because I didn't think anybody would understand. But it was a beautiful experience, and I felt very blessed and very touched in ways that words just couldn't come to mind to describe it. But it stayed in my heart, and I always hoped that that beautiful divine experience could somehow repeat itself, and no matter what I did, I couldn't make that happen. But the message stayed with me, and essentially I knew that I had been given the ability to see the truth in people and to see people's souls. And for a lot of my young years in my life, I did various different kinds of study to understand people, human behaviour, spirituality, because I had a passion for it. I had a thirst for learning, and I guess they were the milestones that I needed while I raised a family of 3 beautiful children, now adults, all of which became a landscape for my learning and my understanding of my spirituality and, our soul. And then I had a very significant experience in my midlife, where I began a period of questioning the path I was on, and I had a very deep desire to know more, and that desire became stronger and stronger and stronger to the point I couldn't resist it anymore. And I knew that I needed to break away from my familiar life and go find out what that calling was. It was a very, very difficult decision for me, because whilst it was very strong in my heart to do this, it also meant that I would have to have an incredible amount of courage to leave what I knew. My family life, my commitments to my family life, and all of the people that were in that part of my life, that phase of my life. I knew that I had to step away, with the risk of being rejected, not understood, judged, criticised, and I knew it was going to be very tough. And it was very tough. But somehow I had that calling on my heart that would not go away, and it was driven by a desire to discover more about love, more about divine love and what that truly means. And I did understand that we are more than our mental and physical life and what we know ourselves to be as human beings, that we're very spiritual people. And in time I learned that that is the core essence of who we are, first and foremost. And through many experiences and learning and education and painful challenges, I discovered what that spirituality meant. And I also was able to fine-tune some very deep awarenesses within myself, my empathic and intuitive abilities and my psychic abilities, once I gave myself permission to be my true self. And in order for me to be my true self, I needed to step away from the framework, the society, the way I was living, in order to honestly and truly own that. And that was a real challenge. And I remember at some point, not long after that decision to break away, I did a lot of writing and a lot of journaling, which helped me to process all the feelings and the experiences and the thoughts that I was having at the time, and trying to make sense of a lot of pain in my heart on my decision, and also for the first time in my life managing on my own as a single woman, which was not something I'd ever done. I did marry early. I did not live a life of testing the waters with other relationships, so this was a new experience for me. Yes, I was a very capable woman. I raised 3 children. We had a strong family. So yes, I knew what to do to look after myself, but it was very lonely at first. It was a mixture of freedom to be me and disconnect from everything that I had known. And writing has always been my way of expressing, as well as connecting with God and the divine. And I remember one day when I was walking along the beach close to where I live, I had been writing some notes in my phone and didn't really think too much of it. I started to put some bullet points down, and I looked down at my phone and looked at what I had typed into my notes of my phone, and realised there was something interesting forming on the page or on the screen. And I felt very strongly in that moment that Spirit was telling me that I was looking at the chapters of my book, my first book. And it hit me really strongly in my heart, and I was not expecting it at all. I went, wow. And so I started to play with that over the next couple of weeks, and I'd fill out each bullet point a little bit more and put some more information in there. And then I was realizing, why am I doing this on my phone? It's too hard to put all of those thoughts into such a small screen. I'll just put it on my computer. And before I knew it, I was writing table of contents of my book and beginning to write my first book. It just poured out of me for the next 4 to 5 months, and I literally experienced a divine download of beautiful, beautiful messages that felt like was coming from God, from my angels, from Spirit, of what it means to be connected to the divine and to understand what true love is. And that as human beings, we're here on this earth to learn about what love is, regardless of who we are, what background, what we do in our life. We are all here on a soul journey to learn about divine love. And that divine love exists within us. It's not a love that we find in someone else or something else. It's the love that we find within us, that is connected to everything that is living, everything that is spiritual, and yet we do experience that within ourselves as well as a connection to others. And it's a very interesting journey. And we all know that, life here on this physical plane is not smooth sailing. We have a lot of challenges. And for none of us do we ever reach a state of perfection. And certainly if we are trying to, I would recommend not to do that at all. It is honestly through all of our challenges, what I refer to as our soul lessons, that helps us to grow in wisdom and understanding, and expands and stretches our heart in so many ways. But it's through those challenges and those soul lessons that we come to learn to understand the depth, the breadth of our amazing spiritual essence. And in my book I began to write from the context of my own journey, which was teaching me a lot of things about myself, a lot of things about spirituality. And I used the context of my life and my experiences as a way to begin my book. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, we're all the same. We may look different, have different experiences in our life, but essentially we're all soul beings having this lesson or soul lessons to understand what love is. Everything that we do comes from a place of wanting to be loved, to give love, to experience love in some way. This is what our soul craves for, and this is what we are trying to learn and understand. So in my book I began to write my experiences and things that I was learning for myself, how I was questioning my own identity and purpose, the struggles that I had, the fears that I needed to encounter, and recognizing that I couldn't avoid those things that scared me to death. I really did need to face them. I really did need to understand what they meant for me and how I was developing my inner courage while facing my deepest fears. And all of the trips and hazards that we come across in life, and boy are there so many of them, they were my teaching tools. They were my soul lessons. And slowly I realized that there was a pathway, a sequence to all of these lessons. And I just kept writing them down. And with the help of God, divine, the universe, whatever you are comfortable relating to in terms of our higher power and our higher knowing, I received incredible guidance as wisdom just poured out onto the page. And I remember I would write for 3 hours at a time, and most of the book was written by the beach, which is where I feel closest to God, closest to a sense of spirituality and freedom from everything else that ties me down. It was a beautiful place to write. I would write for 3 hours and it would go like it was 5 minutes. And when I felt that I had nothing else to give, I would close my laptop and be very content with that. And sometimes I would go back and I would read at a later time what I had written in that session. And honestly, it would blow my mind away. Wow, who wrote that? Where did all that wisdom come from? Surely not from me. Because I can tell you, over the 3 years that I wrote that book, oh my goodness, I was as human as anybody. I sank to incredible depths of sadness, low energy, feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, trying to make sense of my life and the choice and decisions I had made. And yet here I was reading the most incredible beauty and love on those pages in my laptop, that were just gems. And I just wondered where on earth that came from. And of course I knew Spirit was guiding me, and I've always felt that through my writing I was a clear channel for the divine. It was always very, very easy for me to receive inspiration and the wisdom that would come through. I mean, that's how I learnt for myself, was through my writing. And I know that God and my angels have been with me since as long as I can remember. And I'm just grateful that that is my way of being able to hear God's beautiful messages of love. And so my book developed. And there are periods of time, I mean, after the 4 to 5 months of this sort of download, I had my first draft, and I was quite shocked actually, because I didn't have any expectations. I didn't sit down and go, right, I'm going to write a book. And I remember people saying to me, oh my goodness, you're doing so much writing, you're writing a book, that's amazing, that sounds really hard. And I go, actually, it's not hard at all. I'm in absolute heaven when I'm in that space, in that zone of writing. I love it. It gives me such incredible peace. I actually didn't have any expectations on the outcome, and I never gave myself a deadline. And I think that really helped me, because I was free to write without any restrictions. And I wanted it to come from my heart. I didn't want to be thinking or overthinking about it. And I think that really worked. So I can honestly say the book was, co-created with God, my angels, my spirit guides, for sure. And then it came a time where I was tired and I needed to put it down for a little while, and I needed to actually implement a lot of those lessons. I needed to live life a little bit, experiment, have some more ups and downs and some more awarenesses. And then after a month or two, I'd come back to it and I'd go, okay, I need to improve this. I now have learnt a little bit more on my journey. And I would tweak it and add. And it just became something that was evolving over a period of time. It was meant to be that way. I needed to experience the lessons. I needed to integrate them into who I was, because I was transforming. I was going through this incredible transformation in my heart and in my soul, learning about the lessons of love. And yes, I finished the book, but I'm no expert. I've still got a long way to go, and plenty more to learn. So perhaps there's more books to come. However, the day did come eventually when I felt this project was ready and ready to be shared. And along that journey, I just want to give credit and my sincere love and thanks to some beautiful earth angels with me in those first few years when I stepped away from my life, my previous life. They loved and supported me. They didn't question me. They didn't tell me what to do or how to think. They were just there. And, whether it was a meal or a sleepover or a conversation over coffee, whatever it was, I just from the bottom of my heart, so grateful for those beautiful people being in my life. And at the same time, I went through incredible learnings and opportunities to learn about spirituality, and for all of those amazing spiritual gurus out there ahead of my time, they were incredible influences to me as well. And I wrote very familiar names in the front of my book under the acknowledgements, because whilst they don't know me personally, I felt that their spirit walked with me very much so through my journey of change and transition. They taught me so much, and I thank them for sharing their wisdom and their soul lessons. Some are now departed, most of them still with us, fortunately. Beautiful teachers I will always be grateful for. so the time came when last year I realised I was getting close to finishing my goal, and my goal was always just to finish my project that was personal to me. But I always had in my heart that this was a very, very special and very important message for everyone. And I know that some people will have an opinion as to who the book is suited for, but honestly, when we're talking about love and we're talking about our spirituality, this is for everyone. And that's my purpose in writing it. Because none of us are here in this physical life to sit back and cruise. We are all here learning about what it is to be our best version. And so I hope that if you get a chance to read my book, and it's called The Power of Soul Loving, A Spiritual Guide to Love and Freedom. If you get a chance to read this book, I pray and hope that in some way it touches your heart and speaks to what you need to hear at any particular point in time. We are having changes in our life all the time. We never stop. It's never just one, it's multiple. For some of us, they can be small aha moments that we have. For others, we can be rocked by big changes in our life that tend to be a catalyst for our learning journey. However that happens for you in the short term and the long term, I pray that this book and the wisdom contained within this book is helpful to you in a very practical way. It is written as if I'm talking to you like we are now. I'm not an academic. I would not say that I have, credentials for writing. I certainly don't. I just spoke from the heart, and I believe I channeled the Divine's messages. And I hope that somewhere you will find the book useful for you. And it certainly is written, it starts with a bit of context of my life, because I believe we need that. But it's certainly possible for you to apply your own context to the guidance in the book. There are opportunities for you to pretty much open the book at any chapter, and it could be relevant to you at that point in time, or you may choose to read it from front to back. There are reflections and meditations, and I do believe that the book is not designed for you to speed read through it. This is something that you may pick up now and again when you feel the need to, when something's happened and you've got questions and you want to dive a little deeper. You pick up the book, you read something, and hopefully it's exactly what you need to hear in that moment. And give yourself time to process what's going on, because for each and every one of us, our experiences will be different, and the awarenesses we have are different. So I encourage you to share it, to write about what you're thinking and feeling and what you're going through. And I will say now that sometime, hopefully this year, I will be able to publish an online course that will enable you to dive deeper into each of the chapters and have some explanation to explore things for yourself. And I will have a journal for you to be able to write your personal and private reflections for just you, for you to be able to have an opportunity to explore your thoughts, your feelings, the lessons, what you're going through. That's what life's all about. So thank you for allowing me to be here with you today to tell you a little bit about how this book came to be. Probably most of you don't know me very well, and I would love to get to know you. I do have a website, which is a really great starting point. It's called livingwithspice.com, And people will find me on Instagram with Living with Spice, and Facebook under my name, Rebecca Gabrielle, as well as Living with Spice. And I regularly post messages. Hopefully they're helpful. I do readings, something I'm very passionate about. And I may not be a traditional card reader, but certainly it's just another way of being able to bring the messages from the divine to you to help you with your soul journey. And most of the time I will publish YouTube readings for the general collective, but certainly I do personal readings for people so that you can have some guidance for your personal life. So, if that's something you're interested in, you can always look at my website for more information, or my YouTube videos, which is, you can search under Living with Spice. So that's just a small little bit of conversation about me, my journey, how my first book came to be, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you are happy to share a little bit about your journey, perhaps with either me or with others, because we're all in this together, and certainly none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. And I know that I've still got a ways to go in my lifetime of things to learn, but embracing the journey, embracing the challenges, and I hope to have more conversations with you like this. And let's see, what else do I need to share with you? Oh, if you want a copy of the book, you can Google thepowerofsoulloving.com. So it's available through Balboa Press. You can go to any online bookstores like Amazon, Booktopia in Australia, Book Depository, Barnes & Noble in the States, and pretty much any bookstore really. It's available if you do a good search. And and on the powerofsoulloving.com. Okay, that's it from me, and I hope we get to do this again soon. Love and blessings to you, and bye for now.